Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Just going to start off with a little housekeeping. Just going to say that this webinar is being recorded. The presentation and link to the recording will be emailed to you. If you have any questions, please type it in the chat. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And before we get started, we're just going to take a quick poll. Let me go ahead and launch that poll here on your screen. We just have 3 questions. We would like to know, are you a business owner? Have you or your business been hacked? And has your business been held for ransom? So we'll give you a few seconds to answer those. All right, that was fast. Thank you everyone for voting. Let me share the results here for everyone. So looks like 88% of you are a business owner. 75% of you have not been hacked. 25% of you have, and none of you have been held for ransom. That's good, good. Okay, so from here, I will turn it over to today's facilitator, Lilia Rudon from the Better Business Bureau. Lilia, thank you so much for doing the webinar today. Let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lilia Rudin. I'm with your Better Business Bureau, serving Central California and Inland Empire County. So I've been with BBB since 2014. I deal a lot with accredited businesses throughout our service area, but I also get to do outreach as communications and outreach manager. And I get to present topics that are relevant to our community, especially to our business owners. And therefore, that's how we got here today. And if we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Today, I will talk to you guys about cybersecurity for businesses and the importance of it. And we actually have a sponsor whom I would like to thank, ComWorld. And they will be here with us as an expert and answer any questions that you guys might have at the end of this presentation. So during the presentation, please type into the chat whatever comes to your mind, what you would like to know, learn more about, and we will address that at the end of this presentation. Let's go ahead and move on. And that's our expert, Devery Sturgis. He will be with us shortly. And let's go ahead. And I also would like to thank SCORE. Without SCORE, this webinar would not be possible. We did this in partnership with them. So thank you so much for inviting BBB to do this. Better Business Bureau. Many of you are familiar with the organization. We're a nonprofit, and one of our core services is to provide factual, accurate background information on businesses in our service area to consumers. And that is where BBB business profiles come in. They live on bb.org, these profiles for businesses, whether they're accredited or not. We provide information about everyone we have in a database to consumers. So you can always find a company and their profile on bb.org, and it's as easy as putting into the Google search bb.org. If you can go back to the previous slide, bb.org, you're going to get to our homepage, type in the company name, location, and we will give you their profile. On that profile, you can find all kinds of information, company contact info, any licensing that you need to know there is required. You can submit a reader review. You can file a complaint if the company is not handling an issue that you have with them. You can request a quote from them, so they can send you a bid for a product or service that you're looking for. So BB provides you resources and tools to make a wise buying decision as a consumer. And for businesses, if you're a business owner, it's a great benefit and value to be listed on bb.org where consumers can find you. So that's, if you have any questions about accreditation, how to be listed, anything about your profile, look yourself up if you're a business owner. look your company up, see what's going on. If you have any questions, you can always give us a call. My contact information will be available, so you can shoot me an email and we'll go from there. Okay. So now let's take a look at our agenda today. We will talk about cybercrime. We will talk about data statistics and cybercrime and cybersecurity, and all of this topic is very data driven. So there will be a lot of statistics that have been researched, but there will be a lot of information that I will share with you today that will help you protect your company, protect your employees, your data, and all kinds of other information that you have from the bad actors, from unscrupulous individuals. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, where we want to just take a look at the incredible amount of damages that cybercrime causes. And you can take a look actually at daily, you can look at hourly, you can look at the annual damage. And when I say damage, I don't mean just exactly dollars lost. There's so much more to cybercrime other than just financial loss. And we'll go over those items in the next slide, but I want to take a look, just take a look at these numbers. $16.4 billion a day in damages. Globally, of course, but still, the cybercrime has caused in 2021, and that amounts to nearly $6 trillion of damages by cyber criminals done to companies and individuals in just 1 year. So this is why it's so important for BBB to get in front of you, get in front of our business owners, because business owners not only have their businesses to run, protect, but they're also consumers. They're also individuals with their own information, which will help them protect as well. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide, which what are the possible cybercrime damages? It's not just financial loss. It's definitely that, but there's so much more to it, right? So we have compromised systems and devices that happen during cybercrime when you are being attacked. There's data breach. During data breach, information is stolen. Therefore, identity theft happens. If you're a smaller business, owners and employees and all your clients, all that information is stolen and then sold on the dark web. And that's how identity theft happens. And it just continues to happen over and over again to individuals. Once your identity has been stolen, it's really hard to get it back. As I mentioned, it's being resold over and over again to new individuals on the dark web. And that is why it's so important that we do everything that we can to keep that information protected. And obviously there's financial loss. There's damages to the brand. And then we all know as consumers, if we know that a company has been compromised, database has been compromised, your information has been stolen, we don't feel very good about that company. We don't feel safe with them. We don't feel like doing business with them. So that damage to the brand is astronomical at any given point during cybercrime and data breach. Loss of proprietary information. If you're a company who is developing a new product, new technology, new processes, if you're hacked and your data is breached, that information will be stolen, and as well as some intellectual property. So again, be very careful as to what happens to your system, to your devices, and protect all the information that you have stored. Next. Let's take a look at brief data breach statistics. On average, cost of a data breach is 3.8 million as of 2021. So for a company or organization, on average, data breach costs almost $4 million. And this is an average, and there are some big players that drive this average up. It's not to say that every company will incur this cost during a data breach. There are some huge corporations that have been hacked, and that's, their costs bringing up the average. But for a smaller company, we'll see later in the other slides how much it costs on average for a smaller company when it comes to data breach. An average time to identify a breach is 207 days. And that number is actually incredibly misrepresented or misunderstood. A lot of business owners and individuals think that they will know immediately that they have been hacked and their data has been breached. But as we can see in 2020, it took over 200 days on average for a company to know that they have been hacked, that they have been breached. And on top of that, an average life cycle of a breach was 280 days from identification to containment. So it took them 200 days to even know they've been breached. And then on top of that, almost good 3 months to contain that situation and fix it and, put in place protocols and everything else to put a stop to it. So again, really important, keeping your systems and your devices safe from hackers is extremely important because of these statistics right here. You can see the amounts of dollars they will cost you and how many days you will be not fully operational because you will have to deal with this data breach. There's going to be business loss as well. So let's go on to the next slide. And I'm not going to go over these in detail. I just want to get this in front of you so you have an idea how often this happens. And it happens to big companies, right? With a lot of dollars dedicated to security, to cybersecurity, to protection and all of that. And it still happens to them. For example, Twitter was breached. Only 130 accounts were actually targeted. And then out of those accounts, only 130 that were attacked, $121,000 in Bitcoin was swindled by attackers out of those accounts. Marriott was breached and 5.2 million hotel guest information was exposed. MGM had a breach and 142 million hotel guest information exposed. So we're looking at a lot of information, a lot of personal client information that is getting out there and getting in the hands of unscrupulous individuals who will use it to commit crimes such as identity theft and others. And I think this one right here, Uber tried to pay off their hackers to delete the stolen data of 57 million users, and they tried to keep the breach quiet, but that didn't happen. And I think the most famous data breach that we all know about is the Yahoo breach with 3 billion accounts exposed when Yahoo was hacked in 2013. So this should just give you an idea that this happens. It happens on the large scale, but then we'll talk a little bit more how this happens to smaller businesses and why it happens to smaller businesses. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so we talked about data breach. We talked about averages, how much it costs, who it happens to, but how does data breach happen, right? Like, how does it happen? And then we'll talk about how to prevent it. There's several ways that it can happen. It could be a malicious insider. It's someone who works for the company and purposely access some type of data and or shares that data with an intent to cause harm to that individual or company, right? Then we have something that's a little less intentional, like a lost or stolen device, and it's not password protected, it's not encrypted. So it gets in the hands of someone who shouldn't have it, has sensitive information that goes missing. That's considered data breach. And then one of the most probably popular ways is definitely a malicious outside criminal. And these are the hackers who use various attacks to gather information from networks and individuals, and again, to either for financial gain, to steal proprietary information, or for identity theft purposes. So these are the ways, and there's probably more, but these are the main ways that data breach happens. Next. And now that we know how it happens, what kind of methods are these bad actors are using, right? So how does this happen? How do they get from being someone who wants to hack someone to getting you to give them the information they're looking for? So number one is phishing. And it's not the fun kind. I think we're all familiar with phishing and phishing emails and what it is and how that works. And essentially, it's a social engineering attack that's designed to trick you into providing information to these scammers. There's another way that they do it, And this one is not very likely, but still possible, right? So where hackers actually enlist software tools to guess your passwords to your accounts. So that happens, but not very often as much as phishing. And we'll look at those stats as well. And then, of course, there's malware. Malicious software, it's an umbrella term to refer to software intentionally designed to cause damage to computers, servers, networks, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of different types of malware. And we'll touch upon a few to let you know what they are, how they operate, what to do, and what not to do. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. And let's go over phishing email. Phishing, as I mentioned before, is a type of scam where criminals send an email, appears to be legitimate, and it contains links. Links are, of course, going to take you to a website that's designed to take your information and, or most of the time, both scenarios, install and download malware to your device. Phishing has evolved. And now we have phishing via phone call, which is called vishing, and via text, it's called smishing, as if, just phishing wasn't bad enough. It's evolving, it's spreading, and now, phishing is more, if you think about it, if you cast a wide net, right? So, and just hope whatever you get with it, you get. So these scammers have a bunch of emails. They send a message with all these links and all the malware to a bunch of people, and they hope that someone bites, right? Or someone gets in there. Now they have developed a slightly better version of phishing. It's called spear phishing, where they are now targeting a specific individual or a group or a company, and their emails are more personalized, they're more customized to make it look like a legitimate email. And now they're focusing their messaging to a specific group or individual, right? And then we have whaling. So I'm pretty sure that I know a lot of our accredited businesses actually shared with us emails that came to them. They showed us screenshots or just reported to us of emails targeting high-ranking executives who have access to more sensitive information. They have access to data. They have access to financial accounts. So it's called whaling. So instead of just, trying to get anyone and everyone, scammers are targeting specific individuals high up in a company ranks to get them to click on links, provide information, download malware, breach their data, steal information, move on. So that's basically the cycle of a phishing email. And right here, I wanted to give you an example. It's nothing special. Most of them look like that, but I want to give you an anatomy of a phishing email, right? What it looks like. For example, in the to field that it's coming to you, there's really it's not your email, it's not your name, it's something weird, something obscure. So it's not correct. When you reply to as well, there's not something weird. It's not, the domain for the company that's sending you the email. It's going to be something odd. Super high red flag is if you see fuzzy images or logos for the company. That's red flag right there. The company would not send you an email, especially something like PayPal or Amazon, Netflix, any type of company with a low quality logo in their email. So that's red flag. Anything with aggressive or urgent wording, right? Important notice, last chance, this and that, this and that. So scammers like to play on your emotions, and they use scare tactics a lot to get you to react emotionally as opposed to think rationally. So aggressive wording is always going to be there, and there's going to be threats in the body of the email. There's always going to be some type of threat. We see here that it says, we'll limit what you can do in your account or anything like that. So they're trying to, again, get you to click on that link to provide them with the information that they're trying to get from you. So that's the anatomy of a phishing email, a lot of red flags. So the takeaway from here is this: when in doubt, do not click, do not provide information. Some even suggest not to hover over the link. There needs to be some more research done on that on my part, but some experts say to stay away to even hovering over the link to see, because when you hover over the link, an additional window pops up with a true domain where that link is going to take you. Some experts say that somehow there is a chance that even hovering over might download the malware to your computer. So I'm just telling you what I heard, what I read, and maybe we can look into that a little bit more and have it in a follow-up webinar if you guys are interested. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide and give you some stats, because we looked at a phishing email. We all know what they exist. We probably all have received them, right? But did you know that phishing attacks account for more than 80% of reported security incidents? So just think about it. 80% of all security incidents started with a phishing email. So wouldn't it be very important for you as a company owner, manager, just to teach your staff, to train your staff to what to look for when it comes to emails that are coming in into their inboxes? Tell them what to do, what to look for, and then, if something fishy, something that they're not understanding, to send it to someone they do. I do it all the time. When I receive an email that I'm not too sure about, first thing I do is send it to our IT person here at BBB, who's really good at this. And then he's like, Lilia, no, that's okay. This one's good. That's your to-do list from your supervisor. Click on it and do it. And I'm just kidding. But I really do. If anything is out of order, anything out of ordinary, I do share those emails with IT. And before I click on anything, to make sure that I'm not compromising my company, the network, the devices, so on and so forth. 94% of all malware is delivered by email. So not only 80% of all security incidents are done by phishing attacks, so 94% of all the malware that is penetrating or compromising devices is delivered by email. So put that together, like, you can eliminate so much risk. Again, everyone was trained on what to look for when they receive an email, what not to do, and what to do. 48% of malicious emails attachments are Office files, which don't look suspicious. It looks like someone sent you an email with a document attached, so people click on that. Almost $18,000 lost every minute due to phishing. So just think about that. Every minute, someone, or on average, $17.7 thousand lost. That's how much these scammers are getting away with. 1 in 25 branded emails is a phishing email. So just think about how many emails on daily you get, right? From everything that you have, all the accounts you have, all the subscriptions you have. 1 out of 25 will be a phishing email. It's going to be branded. It's going to look like it's a legitimate email. But again, look for those red flags. Urgent notice, there are threats, fuzzy images, maybe grammatical issues or misspellings in the body of the email. So keep those in mind when you are looking through your emails. And then 30% of phishing emails bypass default security measures. So this is why it's so important to have additional security protocols on your, not only on your emails, on your devices, on your on your networks, on your Wi-Fi, all of it. So everyone should have additional security measures and protocols. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. And one of the very popular malware types that scammers or hackers like to use on companies, on businesses, organizations is ransomware. And it's exactly what it sounds like, right? Ransomware is a specific type of malware that infects and restricts access to a computer until the ransom is paid. So you can be on your computer doing whatever it is you're doing, and all of a sudden a window, a little pop-up comes up, just like the one on the screen. And it's literally telling you that your device is being held ransom until you pay the amount, get your your key to unencrypt everything, and then it gives you how much time you have. So how does a device get infected by ransomware, right? So it could be through the phishing email that we just talked about, or drive-by downloading. So essentially you're just browsing the web, you click on a website, The website is malicious website. It's designed maliciously, and in the script itself, the malware is embedded in there and is downloaded to your device. So those are the two main ways your device will be infected with a ransomware. Let's go ahead and look at next slide, and we'll talk about what to do, right? What to do if you believe that your device has been infected or that window pops up. So number one thing you want to do is you want to disconnect from networks. We're talking about disabling your Wi-Fi, unplugging your Ethernet cables, get off of any adapters, network adapters. Essentially, you want to go off grid immediately. The faster, the better. Because if you don't, there's a possibility that the ransomware will spread to other connections, right? Connected networks and resources. So definitely put your device in airplane mode. If you can, turn on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all of it. And then disconnect all external drives, devices, right? So your USB drives, your memory sticks, because they're going to become compromised as well. So get everything unplugged, unconnected, get off the grid, and take your device or employ assistance or help from an expert so they can clean your computer out, get rid of the ransomware malware, clean it out, run antivirus scan, and all of the good stuff. So next slide, we'll talk about what not to do. And it's very simple. 2 things you don't want to do when you believe you've been infected with ransomware. Definitely don't click on the links in the little pop-up window, because God only knows what else you're going to download to your computer, to your device, right? And definitely do not pay the ransom. Chances are you pay and you're still not going to get your files back, because essentially what they do, and I didn't explain it because I thought it was just so self-explanatory, but all your files are locked. All your pictures are locked, documents are locked. You can't even browse. Most of the time your browsing windows are locked too. So you can't really do anything in your computer. It's rendered useless when ransomware is on your computer. So people, they get scared, they get intimidated, and they want to get their files back. And they pay the ransom, but per research, only estimated 19% of the time where a victim paid ransom, their device was unlocked and given back to them, right? Only 19%. And even after that, essentially what you told the hackers that you are willing to pay to get your device back. So you are at risk of becoming a repeat victim. So definitely do not pay any ransoms when this happens to you. Next slide. Let's just do a few here because there's so many, but just in case this happened to you, or you just need to understand you're not alone. This happens to a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, and you just have to be ready. You have to be protected, because 1 out of every 61 organization globally was being impacted by ransomware each week in 2021. A ransomware attack or attempt on a business happens every 14 seconds. So not to say that they are successful every 14 seconds, but an attempt is made every 14 seconds. Someone is trying to breach someone's network and devices. Let's take a look at this one. This one's important. An average cost of ransomware attack on a business is $133,000. That's a lot, because there's a lot to it. Not only, you're going to become non-operational for a while to fix the issue. There's going to be data loss. There's going to be probably liability issues there. You're going to have to get expert help. So there's a lot that is entailed in all of this. We all heard about the Colonial Pipeline. It was hacked, and the hackers actually took over a main infrastructure that they needed and to just be operational. And they actually paid the hackers $4.4 million in ransom just to get their systems back. I think DOJ or some kind of other government organization retrieved some of that money, but still they lost a few $1 million to these hackers. Manufacturing companies account for nearly 25% of all ransomware attacks professional services 17, and then everything else after that. Next slide. So this one, I didn't find any statistics that this happens as much as it happens with ransomware, but it's just such a interesting malware to talk about, to discuss, because essentially it just downloads to your computer and it's operating on the back end of it, and you do not know that it's there. And what it does is in its name, it's a keylogger. So it logs every keystroke that you make on your device, logs it, and sends it to the originator of this malware, right? So if you think about it, every time on you're on your device and you're logging into your email, username, password, type, logged it, send it to the originator. Then you're logging into your banking account, right? Username, password, same thing. And it could be there for months and you will not know that you have it. It's just going to gather all kinds of information about your device, about all your accounts. And that's how easily you can get hacked and your savings wiped out, your accounts drained, all kinds of stuff. So how it happens? Same thing, usually for an attachment from a phishing email. Again, we got to be really careful what kind of emails we open, what we click on, what we download. Or same thing as with ransomware, a user visit a malicious website, and the keylogger is then installed through web page script onto your device. So you need to be very careful what kind of websites we're visiting as well. Make sure it's secured, HTTPS, lock, everything needs to be encrypted. So make sure you don't click on just random websites, especially if you're shopping and providing your payment information on a non-secured website. Huge no-no. All right, next one. What to do? You definitely want to, if you believe, right? You believe, because it's not going to be like a ransomware. You're not going to be logged out. Nothing's going to be locked. So if you believe that something has been installed, you definitely want to run your anti-malware and antivirus scan to see what's happening. Sometimes you can actually find your keylogger running in the background as a program, so you can go through the, your settings, your task manager, find it that way. But a lot of times these keyloggers disguise themselves as actual like legitimate programs, and it's hard to find them on your own. So definitely run an antivirus and malware scan. Uninstall it. Again, it's like a program, you can uninstall it. And if this is something you can do if you're kind of familiar with what you're doing, but if you're not, definitely get expert help. Have someone take a look at your computer, run scans, and uninstall anything that does not belong on your device. Let's go ahead and look at next. Oh, what not to do. This is a good one. Okay, so if you believe you have a keylogger installed on your computer, you definitely do not want to ignore it, right? It's not going away. It's not going to go away. It's just going to sit there, and it's going to continue to gather your keystrokes and send it to the originator. And definitely do not log into additional accounts after you suspect that you are infected with the keylogger. So those are the two things that you do not want to do. Let's go ahead next. Okay, so why we're talking about this right now, right? We talked about all these data breaches and everything on a larger scale with these large corporations, national, international, but well, a lot of people do not, not that they don't understand, but it's hard to grasp why hackers would want to target smaller businesses. And just 2 years ago, when I was doing this presentation, based on the research I made, 77% of small business owners did not believe they were a target because they did not think they were important enough or had enough information for hackers to even bother hacking them. It's changed a lot in the last 2 years, and we'll see those stats later on. But small businesses, which account actually per SBA for 99.7, or some say 99.9% of all US businesses. And the way they classify it actually is any business under 500 employees is considered small. For Better Business Bureau, it's like, it's small and medium when we look at it as a category, but any business under 500 is considered small. So essentially almost 100% of all businesses is a small business. Therefore, They play a unique role in the cybersecurity ecosystem, right? And they are targeted by criminals as gateways into larger corporations because the criminals know smaller companies will not have as many security measures as a larger corporation. So let's hack the smaller business and make it our way through to the larger corporation through sending emails from the smaller business, if they're a vendor, they're a subcontractor, whatever it may be, client, and they can then penetrate the larger business a lot easier after they compromise the smaller one. Again, it's a gateway. 43% of all cyber attacks happen to small businesses. This is the latest data. 2 years ago, it was 60. So it dropped significantly in the last 2 years, but it's still a huge number, right? And then small organizations have the highest targeted malicious email rate. It's 1 in 323. So every 323 emails that are received, there's going to be one malicious email. And we all know how many emails we receive on just daily basis, right? So within a week, there will be that possibility of a malicious email being sent to you as a small business. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. Thought I would throw in some of COVID stats in here and how does that relate with cyber crime. Obviously, since the pandemic, FBI reports a 300% increase in cybercrime, reported cybercrime. So this is already some reported, not just what happened, this is reported cybercrime. I'm pretty sure that number is a lot higher because not everyone reports any type of cybercrime or hacking. So 27% of COVID cyber attacks targeted banks and healthcare organizations, and COVID-19 is credited for 238% rise in cyber attacks on banks in 2020. We're seeing that Americans lost almost $100 million due to stimulus checks and other COVID-19 scams. In 2020, Google blocked 18 million daily malware and phishing emails related to coronavirus. So this is just the start of pandemic, and this is just on the daily, 18 million malicious emails. They were designed to penetrate the system, penetrate the firewalls, and just to breach data, essentially using coronavirus as pretenses because everyone was freaked out, everyone was scared. And again, what do scammers do? They hone in on that and exploit that. They exploit your emotions and your feelings, and that they know when people are emotional, they will most likely reveal more information than they should, and they're not thinking rationally. Cloud-based cyber attacks rose 630% between January and April 2020. Remote workers have caused a security breach in 20 organizations, which is not that bad. So kudos to all remote workers. You did not do a lot of damage, 20%. And 81% of global organizations have experienced an increase in cyber attacks since the onset of the pandemic. So kind of gives you an idea of what pandemic has done when it comes to cyber crime. Next. Cost and damages. So worldwide, and I think we did that math on the first slide, 6 trillion in 2021 annually. That's the overall cost and damages due to cybercrime. It is estimated and projected that that will go to 10.5 trillion annually by 2025. We are already in 2022, so we're halfway there. So they're estimating almost a double in cyber cost damages, cybercrime cost damages. Average cost of malware on the company, so altogether it's not ransomware, that's just like an umbrella term, right? It's 2.6 million, and again, the bigger corporations are bringing this average up. Healthcare industry incurs the highest average data breach costs at 7.1 million. Let's see, cost, oh, this one's good. The cost of lost business average is 1.2 million. So this is business lost due to a cyber crime. And then this one's fun, an average cost for a stolen record per individual is $146. So just think about it. When these hackers breached MGM, right? And it was like 52 point something million records stolen. Just think about it, how much they made out with, because you can sell someone's information, one individual, for $146. So this is why they're doing it. They're financially motivated. There's a lot of money in this crime, and you can do it from anywhere in the world. You can have a bunch of proxies that no one will ever know where you're at. And this is very lucrative. This is why they keep doing it. People keep falling for it. And it's not going to stop until everyone really is taking a lot of precautions and they know what they're doing, and they're really thinking about their behavior, right? Their behavior on their devices and online. Okay, next. So these are something that I really want you guys to know. It's 5 cybercrime stats that businesses need to know. 95% of all cybersecurity breaches are caused by human error. So this takes us back to that phishing email, right? And being able to know what you're doing, being able to spot, the red flags and not clicking any. So 95% of all times of being vulnerable to a cyber attack is caused by human error. So that is very manageable, right? So manageable by being able to train your staff, yourself, and how this works and what not to do. And you can eliminate a lot of risk. 88% of small business owners felt their business was vulnerable to cyber attack. This is current statistics. I told you 2 years ago, 77% of them thought it was completely irrelevant to them and it will not touch them. This one's also fun. On average, only 5% of companies' folders are properly protected. Just think about it. On average, only 5% of all folders are properly protected. So that's something that management needs to take into consideration and make sure that all the folders, everything that they have for their company is properly secured and protected. 86% of breaches were financially motivated. 10 were motivated by espionage. Interesting. I don't know what happened to the other 4% of this, maybe just for fun. I don't know. I guess just somebody hacking someone for fun. And then 60%, okay, this one's important. 60% of smaller companies will go out of business within 6 months of falling victim to cyber attack. I'll let that sink in. Almost 60%, actually 60% of smaller companies will go out of business within 6 months of falling victim, because there's just so much damage done that they will not be able to recover from that. Okay, next. So what do you do, right? What do you do as a business owner or a manager, CEO, president, whatever your title is? You're the decision maker. You run the business, right? So what do you do? Number one is you train all employees in cybersecurity best practices. And those, again, I will, at the end of this presentation, actually not at the end, today, I will email an attachment. It's funny because I'm telling you not to click on attachments, but I will email, it will come from my email. And it will be a BBB's guide to cybersecurity. And it will lay out everything that you need to, it's like step-by-step guide of everything that you need to do. So be on the lookout for that. Don't think it's suspicious. Do not report it as spam. It will be me. And just something that you can have handy to make sure that you check everything off, did this, maybe I need to work on this. Okay, so number 2, implement role-based access control. Think about how many people you have in your company, what their roles are, and what access do they have to what information? Do they need to? Does Becky at front desk need to have access to financials information or personnel information? Or does someone in sales really need to have this access to this information? You know what I mean? So take stock of all your staff and roles and information, and definitely make sure that you limit unnecessary access to information that someone should not have. Initiate automated or remote backup and data recovery. Definitely need to have that. If your data is breached or locked, you need to have data recovery. Multi-factor authentication or authorization is a must. Strong passwords are good, but you want to have multi-factor authentication processes, and definitely secure your Wi-Fi's, because a lot of, if I haven't come across any company that just willingly, has their Wi-Fi out there unsecured, but still want to make sure that it's secured. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This is BBB's 5 steps to better business cybersecurity guide. This is just an overview, just so I can tell you what's in there, but you will receive that document with step-by-step processes and tips and so on and so forth. So you definitely want to identify, right? Identify your key technologies, take inventory of it, and you need to know how to rebuild your infrastructure from scratch. So identify what technologies you have, what systems you have, what devices you have, so that you're ready. Definitely protect. Assess what protective measures you need to have in place to be prepared for a possible cyber incident, and put protective policies in place for technologies, data, and users. Step number 3, detect, put measures in place to alert you of a current or imminent threats to system integrity. So have something in place that will let you know, so you're not one of the statistics where it took 200 plus days to even know that your devices and your systems have been compromised. You want to know right away, and even better, you want to know before it happens. So that's definitely something to explore and implement. Step number 2, respond. Make and practice an incident response plan to contain the attack, right, or incident, and maintain business operations in the short term. So know what you're going to do if something happens, so you're not completely, chaotic and scattered, and all of a sudden, your business is not operating. Make sure you know what the plan is in case something happens, and then recover. So know what it will take to go back to normal business operations. So be on the lookout for this document that will be emailed to you. Let's go ahead and take a look at next. This is our last slide in terms of content, and this is one I want to leave you with. This is your takeaway, right? So we're going to just look at some myths and some facts. Common misconception, as I mentioned before, that a strong password is enough to keep your company safe. It's not. Make sure you have 2-factor authorization and data monitoring that is needed. Myth: only certain industries are vulnerable to cyber attack. It is absolutely not true. Any organization with sensitive information is vulnerable. Some industry more than others, but no one is safe. Antivirus and anti-malware keep company 100% protected. Not true. Software can't protect from all cyber attacks. That is why that you need to eliminate that human error, right? The 95% human error when it comes to cyber attacks. Myth: cybersecurity threats come from the outside. They do, but a lot of times they are coming from inside as well, and it's harder to detect when it's an insider. Cybersecurity is solely IT department's responsibility. Absolutely not true. Every employee plays a role in keeping the company cyber safe. And you'll know right away if your company is hacked. We've been over this. You will not, most likely. So modern malware is so stealth and it's so hard to detect that you need to put in place all kinds of precautions so that you keep your company, your network, your devices, everything safe. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have next here. Just your resources and reporting. If anything happens to you, any type of, especially like a ransomware, you want to report, contact your authorities, local police department, sheriff's office. You can report it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3, Federal Trade Commission. You can file a complaint there and file a report. You can file a report with Better Business Bureau. We have this amazing online tool, Scam Tracker. It's real life, it's interactive. It's a map of all the scams that are happening North America. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, click on the little plotted area, see what's going on. It will spit out all kinds of information about what people are reporting, what kind of scams are happening. And then you can educate yourself, or you can report if something has happened to you. Authorities, FBI, they're all looking into this BBB scam tracker to look for patterns, look for what's happening, launch investigations, and all kinds of good stuff. So definitely report if any type of scam is happening to you. That report will help potentially and hopefully another individual not to fall victim for that same scam. So definitely this is what you need to do. And with this said, I do believe it is the last slide for me, and I'll go ahead and kick it back to SCORE, and you guys, we will chat again during Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lilia. That was so informative. We know that you have received a lot of information here today, and it may be something that you are struggling to think about how you're going to process it all. So we want to tell you that SCORE has lots of resources, and especially a mentor to help you process. If you will take a look at the screen, you can access a lot of information from our library, including how to take a workshop from our website. You can go to our local website, centralvalley.score.org. You can request a mentor there, or we have a direct link for that. And if you're sitting around thinking about how you're going to use all the time on your hands, and you have a great deal of business experience, we may be just the answer to your prayers if you want to explore the opportunity for being a volunteer with us. So I believe Christina has some exit poll questions for us. And I would be happy to read those out as well. So after today's webinar, do you have a better understanding of how to protect your business? Second question is, would you like to attend a follow-up webinar regarding cybersecurity? Third question, would you like a mentor experience with cybersecurity? Or let me just say any other mentor, but specific for today. Would you recommend SCORE to a friend? If you'll take a moment and answer those questions, then Christina will give us the results. Or one of us will. So I'll read those off, Christina. Today's results are that 100% of you have a better understanding. So congratulations, Lilia, and congratulations to all of you who have listened well. Would you like to attend a follow-up webinar? 75% of you would. Would you like a mentor for this particular issue? 38% yes, 63% no. Would you recommend SCORE to a friend? And we're thankful that 88% of you would do that. May we move on with our questions today? We have a couple of experts here. We have Devari and Suresh, who are experts with us. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves, please?
Okay.
It might require unmuting.
Maybe.
So, yeah, go ahead, please.
I am Devari. I'm with Comworld. I'm a sales engineer, technology consultant.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
So nice meeting you all. Yeah, this is Suresh. I'm a SCORE mentor. I'm in the software industry for the last 20 plus years.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Sorry, I mispronounced your name, Devari.
Not a problem. Happens every time.
Well, it's very easy to pronounce. I think I just heard it differently somewhere through my distorted ears. So we have questions that we want to begin. We have a lot of questions, actually. Suresh has been very helpful in answering some of them, but I don't think that all the answers have been propagated among everyone. So Here's a question, and it's sort of prefaced and it's a little long. It seems every vendor or service we hire is vulnerable to cybersecurity. Unless they are our family, I don't think they'd welcome us asking what specific steps they take to protect their data and that of their customers. So how do I ascertain whether a service we are subscribed to or ones we're considering have robust cybersecurity protections in place? Boy, this is a people skill question, isn't it? Who would like to tackle
Suresh,
that?
would you like to begin?
Yes, let me take a stab at it. So every vendor service, you are right. So we are all vulnerable to cybersecurity attacks, right? So that's the bottom line. So always that should be our going in. It is, we are all vulnerable. So how do we make sure it's not just the software or the electronic things that we are vulnerable to, but at the same time, the social engineering concepts, I know Lilia mentioned about it, right? So how do we make sure if somebody calls you on the phone and asks you, okay, so what is your password? Or like when you're calling, they'd say, I'm calling from a bank or any of those, always have that, back of our mind. So we have to make sure they are the right source. So how do we protect ourselves? Ask them some questions, very specific, because most of our institutions, they're all aware of these problems. So they tell you, we never ask for your password over the phone, right? So those kind of basic best practices should be at the core of every one of us, meaning our employees, we are all business owners. So that should be our number one thing. And always have that thing, trust but verify. So that should be our fundamental belief, trust but verify. And it applies more on the cyber space more than ever. So that's my thing. So bottom line, we're all vulnerable. So having that constant antenna up is going to protect us from a software standpoint, from the best practices, our day-to-day life, how we experience the online world. We have to have that basic principles that should help us. That's my take on it.
I was thinking that quote just this morning as I was feeding my chickens for some reason, but that was, yeah. Anybody else have any insights on that? I think that was a very comprehensive answer. Okay,
I'd just
here's
like to
another.
say that
Go ahead, Deb.
a couple of things. Humans never act in error, and they're 100% rational in all cases. The sarcasm aside, we should approach every unknown with a healthy dose of skepticism. If we aren't skeptical, we're stepping into the unknown too boldly. And generally, like Suresh and even the presentation itself, generally vulnerabilities are exploited because of social engineering, not because in general, the vulnerabilities are discovered because they are offered unknowingly. The small
Fear and
percentage that are
pride.
not. I'm sorry, Tom, what?
I was just saying fear and pride.
Yeah, the sources of humans' downfall for sure, at least a few. But the lion's share of those of all malicious activity is due to our offering it unknowingly, to those malicious parties. We don't know what we don't know. We offer Comworld offers our managed customers a 6-layer cybersecurity stack just to ensure that every threat is vetted by an expert resource, either automatically or if it's not known in a registry, it's vetted by a human resource. But just to account for that portion of all the cybersecurity attacks that occur, because we're humans and we're not perfect.
I got a clarification on the question, though, and maybe Lilia will jump in on that, or one of you other guys. My question had less to do with what things we should keep in mind and more to do with vendor choices, supplier choices. You know, how do you ask the hard questions of the vendor? Go ahead, Lilia.
Not that I'm an expert, I can barely log into my own account at any point, but I'll tell you what, go with Better Business Accredited Businesses. I will plug that there because these are trustworthy businesses and we have quite a few. Comworld is one of them. Better Business Bureau accredited businesses. They're just, there is a layer of trust added, not to say that non-accredited business is not going to be trustworthy, but you want to at least check them out with BBB, right? Because if that vendor is not trustworthy, or they've been a part of a data breach, or they're not taking care of their customers properly, BBB will hear about it. There will be complaints. There will be customer reviews. There will be something, right? So if you're not sure, at least do your part and research the company, see what BBB has to say, and just to make sure, go with BBB accredited businesses. That's my expert plug right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. And there was another follow-up that our Central Valley Score, our executive is going to ask, but I think that it's not so much do we trust them to be honest, it's do we trust them to have thought through the same things that you have been teaching us? How do we ask the hard questions? Not are you honest and do you have integrity, but do you understand these issues and have you set up the protection? So I just got a word that was really what it was. So here's my answer to that. We're in a time where we're having to ask honest, hard questions of people about many different things that they may not have thought of. And I believe you gave us the quote earlier, we don't know what we don't know. And so we're just diplomatic about it. I have to have this conversation with you, Mr. or Mrs. Vendor, because not everybody is aware of some of the issues that are out there, and nobody can keep up with all of that. And this may be this question I'm about to ask you about your security measures may be helpful to you as well as to me. So I think it's just a matter of you.
I think Tom's
I
screen
think
froze.
Tom froze. So let's go ahead and get into some of the answered questions, since a lot of them are not visible to all the attendees. So I do want to thank Suresh I do. Oh, 1 second, Suresh. So I do want to thank Suresh for answering those questions, but let's go ahead and get to some of the answered ones. So are some email service providers more effective than others at avoiding phishing? Which are the best?
Some email providers. So I think I responded there. So email providers, when I think about, say, Microsoft Outlook is one, Gmail, people use all kinds of email softwares, right? So all these email providers, they have a level of protection, meaning like when you send from a not a known, well-known domain is like what we have at the end of our email. So they flag it. So that's why if you notice, some of the vendors say, if you go to a spam folder, you will see my email or something like that. So that's because the email provider themselves, they'll just monitor these and they'll just send it to the spam if they feel suspicious, right? That's the first level of protection these major companies do, Microsoft, Gmail, Yahoo, or any of the emails that you use, right? But that's not enough. That's what we were trying to convey here, because that's like one level of protection. But at the same time, we should have any of these popular vendors. So like Lilia was saying, right, if you go to Better Business Bureau, they have a list of reputed vendors we could select from that we know of. Those things we know for now, they're up to date on the latest known vulnerabilities or threats, right? So that is one advice we can provide. And the other thing is we use the best practices, right? Like when you see something odd, like they say you sweepstakes, you won like $2 million for no reason. Those things you have to have a level of skepticism before clicking on any of those. So the email providers is good, but having an additional layer of protection using any of these softwares like Windows Defender or Norton, McAfee, all these are good ones, but go through our Better Business Bureau and choose the right ones, which we know. Yeah.
So when someone's insurance company asks whether they have a firewall, what does exactly that mean? Stephen is asking. Like, does it mean having many layers of security? Can anyone answer that one kind of quickly?
I can go ahead and answer that. A firewall is an appliance that sits between the greater network of the internet and your office network. Can get more technical than that, but there are various ways that the firewall can be programmed to allow traffic in and out, and in what regard. It's a gatekeeper. It's a computer, so it never gets tired. It's always looking. But that's the short answer.
That's good. We can get more in depth on that in the future. But who hunts down cyber criminals? Jasper wants to know. I think that last slide you showed, Lilia, but go ahead.
I think depending on the scale of the crime, if it's, more organized or rather than, one individual sitting in his mom's basement trying to hack something. I mean, there's different variations there, but obviously, local authorities, the police department will have a cyber crime, either like a task force or like something that will be designated for that area. Obviously, FBI does it on a national level. So there's definitely authorities who look into this, but it's just a matter of, are they able to find these individuals? Because like I said, usually they're out of the country, out of jurisdiction for our local authorities. And even if they find them, does the other country have extradition laws? Can they get them here? A lot of times they do. We've seen some like these scammers being arrested in other countries and brought here for prosecution. So there, authorities do look for these. They try to investigate and catch them. If it's a small one-off and it happened to you, hopefully they will look into it and address it and, trying to find these, but they're probably more focused on the larger scale data breaches and bigger fish. That's what I would say.
Super. First you prosecute, then you persecute. But jurisdiction's an issue. This is a question that maybe this will resonate with you more. How does one sync mobile devices with desktop? I think what they're saying is, can you sync your security, easy way to sync your security settings between your multiple devices? I'm guessing the answer is you got to do it individually.
Right. So just to get some clarity. So based on what you just said, Tom, how do you sync mobile devices with desktop? So it depends on, like, say, if it's iOS device. So we have this iTunes store that syncs the apps and everything, backs it up. The other thing, if you're talking about, if it's an Android, it will have a syncing mechanism to back it up. Is that the question, or maybe you can add some more
I believe
details?
that's the question. If the questioner would like to clarify it, that would be fine. And we'll come back to it if we didn't do it adequately.
One thing I'll add, Tom, if they're not responding. So as a general rule, right, most of the apps we use, make sure you're downloading it from the reputed source, the source where you're downloading it from. And if it is too outdated, delete those if you're not using it. Some basic hygiene in keeping your mobile devices. And there are antivirus software available for mobile devices too. So that's another thing.
Good.
If you look up the vendor, they will have.
I think Jasper has two questions. One is when we're going to get the resources, probably today. If you're talking about the presentations, they usually go out within the hour. But there's a question here on system deletion. And I'm not really sure what the question is. It's with system deletion. Maybe that's, is that a option? Is that, Is that something that the hackers might do? Is that which end of that question are you coming with? Are you talking about uninstalling Windows and reinstalling, or as a maybe you could clarify that, Jasper, and we'll come back to it. Tina has a question. I have Wi-Fi at my tax office, and my kiddo and a couple of staff have the password. Am I putting myself or my business at risk of being hacked by allowing them access?
I can go. I responded earlier. So basically, I would say, so we do this at home, right? Our kids know our passwords, but then it is opening the option. The kids might talk to their friends on the phone, or they might say it loud. So once it's out, it's not in your hands. So there is a risk. So that we have to, but then our families know our passwords. My wife knows my phone password. So those things, but there is a risk depending on how you want to handle it. But I would say it is a risk. Once it's out of your hand, now you don't have control on what the other person is going to do with it,
Right.
knowingly or unknowingly, right?
So in some systems, there are different logins for different functions, and so everybody has their own password to get into a system. That would be a good security protocol. Jasper clarified his question. If breached, will a full system wipe and reinstall clear the problem?
Let's give DeVray a couple of options there to answer the questions, please.
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one. System deletion is often too late once the malicious party has obtained whatever data they need. They have it. And if system deletion is an option for you anyway, then maybe you weren't dealing in critical data on that system affected in the first place. System data deletion is often a threat made by the malicious party against the organization, the victim organization. But I mean, of course, to unplug, throw the computer away, get a new computer, you know, it's certainly a way to deal with these things. Not the best.
How about downloading all your information twice daily? I'm not sure if they're talking about downloading or uploading. Maybe uploading to the cloud is what is being asked.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways to make your organization's data more resilient to these kinds of events. Even device failure, to have a redundant backup, maybe one on site, one in the cloud, and of course what you're using in your main system,
Or mobile, a mobile hard drive or something. So the here's a question I actually typed in as a seeder. I use Outlook and Thunderbird for different email accounts that automatically download all my emails. So I'm not opening them individually, that everything's downloading. I believe I have them all set so that they do not download the attachments automatically. But how does this create a level of vulnerability, and what are the protections we should implement if we're using a client like Outlook?
Email security is, of course, crucial to any organization, any individual, really. We don't know what we're supposed to expect from whatever new developments come from the hacker communities. So it's, like we've said before, it's best to approach every situation with a healthy dose of skepticism, but we want to be free and happy individuals, I'm sure, and do the things that we want to do. So it's also wise to put in place security services and products that protects us against any from that email even getting to our inbox in the first place.
Okay. Excellent. What are some methods of allocating resources to staff according to their roles? I think this has to do with access, passwords. This is more of an organizational question. Maybe this is one for Lilia.
Yeah, I'll take that. And I'll use, our organization as an example. We have a custom database, right? For not only our accredited businesses, but all businesses that in our service area. This is a custom database, for BBBs, and it's stemming down from our governing entity, International Association of BBBs. And within that database, there are different access points that we can assign to a different person. Our database is great like that. It has those features, those functions. So someone in sales will not have the same access to the tabs or features that someone in finance has. And so each role, each department has a specific level of access and therefore specific level of security to the data in our database. And that's just, the database. You can look at your device and there are folders, on your device, and you can lock those. For example, we have folders where we store documents, whatever, for each department. And we have folders for our executives. Those are off limits. Those are locked and I can't go in there. So I cannot see information that I'm not meant to see. Therefore, I'm not going to be that internal malicious individual who can get access and share that information. So it's something you need to think about all your information as a business owner, what you have, what kind of sensitive information you're storing, who has access to it and who should not have access to it, and put that stop right there. It's super easy. Lock your folders in your database, allow who needs to see it and who does not need to see it. But that's my very layman's term explanation of it. If maybe Davey can give more of a technical, like maybe there's a technical explanation to this, I would please do.
I mean, not too technical, but the reason we manage our customers' networks, at least from the user perspective, via Microsoft Server is because of those tools that Microsoft has already put in place, has already developed to assign policies and permissions in not just a hierarchical manner, but whatever is specific to how that user needs to function within the organization from a security perspective. It's what they did it for.
Also very helpful if you're having to do the forensics after a breach to find out where the leak is in the dam, so you can plug it.
Absolutely.
The bigger question for Michael is who are cyber criminals? Boggles the mind which people. Okay, well, do you have a profile of a cyber criminal, or are they're pretty much anonymous, aren't they? No, we catch a few every now and then, and we get the.
I'll give you a profile. Extremely intelligent, and they're not dumb to be able to, design these social engineering type of scams. They're very intelligent. They play on your emotions. Cannot say that again or enough. They play on individuals' emotions or on something that you will not know. So in terms of other profile, we can't really give you a specific. They're everywhere in every country. They're in Russia, they're in India, they're in South America. There can be anywhere. They're here in America. There isn't a specific area where we can say they're here and this is where they're operating from, or this is who they are. Anyone with knowledge of technology and hacking can't be one of these threat actors. So, and again, a lot of times they're super anonymous because they know how to cover their tracks and they will virtually be unknown. Unfortunately,
They could live next door to you.
They could live next door in the basement, correct.
And you might even, and some of them need to be redirected and become ethical hackers and work for you guys. Okay, let's see. I'm skipping around to make sure we get anything. We have a question for Devery. How effective is Windows Defender for Windows Server machines compared to, say, Norton or other server-based antivirus programs? Oh, Michael said it was rhetoric, but it was good rhetoric, Michael. I'm glad we had a chance to answer it. Windows, sometimes you hear that Windows Defender is all you need. And I've never believed that, but can you answer that question? Deborah just jumped off. Suresh, maybe?
Okay. I did mention on the chat earlier, but I'll just mention.
Yeah, we
that
want everybody to hear it.
Okay, perfect. So, so Windows Defender, it seems like a robust product, but at the same time, any tool you choose, just one is getting some accreditation, like say Better Business Bureau, or even looking at the common things, right? What we need based on this discussion today, this presentation, we can walk through like a checklist. Does the tool satisfy all this criteria? So that is one way to do it, because the products, the threats constantly evolve, and also some other companies, they are on top of it because they are also hackers in a way, right? They are ethical hackers. So the moment they hear about some vulnerability somewhere, they try to put a fix in place in their product. So some companies are better than the others. So when we are picking a product or a vendor, make sure this checklist, does it satisfy the internet attacks, or the email, does it protect our email? So you just go through this checklist and make sure that it satisfies. And also look at the reputation, online reviews and things, so that how quickly they resolve any new threats. So that's
Suresh,
one
some
way.
people think more is better, and so they end up with multiple antivirus programs that are cannibalizing each other and shutting down
because
their
everybody
computers.
wants to have their product. So that's another challenge, right? So the best thing we can do is follow the best practices and do our due diligence. Have the checklist now from Lilia will send out later today, right? Does it satisfy all this? Then we'll go with that.
So do you have an opinion on which is more secure from Lamont, iOS, Android? We don't want to start a war here, but
Yeah. So that's a tricky one, right? Because both are major companies. Android is from Google, iOS from Apple. They are pretty big, and they want to make sure their product is good. They don't have any negative reputation. So they try to keep it. But if I have to be biased, I would go with iOS. But then I should not say that because people are scattered all over. I use an iOS operating system. But both are good companies. They have their checks in place, but we need to have our level of protection.
Yeah.
Either way. Yeah.
That's really good. Now I'm just scanning these to make sure I've covered all the major ones. While I do that, I'll throw in the one that I put up about reputation management as a threat that we deal with. And Lilia, I guess that's the stuff that comes across the Better Business Bureau desk. Someone is out there to destroy someone's reputation. We see that a lot during election cycles. Or competition between companies, maybe.
So we're saying, I think we looked at the statistics, and it showed that 86% of all cyber attacks are financially motivated. So they're just looking for those dollars, regardless how they're going to get them, steal the money directly, dollars, Bitcoin, steal data, sell it. It doesn't matter. But and 10% was espionage, right? And I think that would kind of fall within that area, the brand damage, stealing information that would be used by competition. So there is that area where those bad actors do operate, and it's about 10% of all cyber attacks.
And what I tell my clients in business, especially professionals, is read Yelp, read all of the review sites. You can get some some reputation management software to scan it, but don't be surprised and answer all your critics. That's a whole different subject. But any other questions before we let you guys get to lunch? I don't see any. Christina, do you see any that I may have missed?
The one just came through right now, Tom,
Okay.
in the Q&A.
Was that, in the Q&A, sorry.
Yeah, it's from Anonymous.
How do we take protective steps in protecting our personal and company reputations instead of hiring a service to do that? I've set Google alerts, I do that too, in quotes, set to notify me in real time in the subsetting and see that it doesn't notify me when I do Google searches in quotes around the word or phrase. Well, that's a good idea. Any other things that you think can be done to protect yourself from people that just have sour grapes and want to post bad reviews? That's not really security, but it's
Right.
important to our business owners.
That's important, yeah. And then definitely there will be those who will do it. There will be those individuals, either customers or hopefully not another business owner, who will trying to damage someone's reputation. What we recommend as BBB, when someone posts a review that is perhaps, out there, out of the left field, but it's just their perspective, it's their experience, is to always respond to every review that you get, especially negative. Respond factually, with no emotion in it, with no blaming of anything. Just, this is what happened. This is how we saw it. This is what it was. These are our policies. This is the outcome. But never leave that negative review unattended, because in consumers' mind, they will take that review and take it as a fact because the business owner did not provide an alternate understanding of what happened. So that's what we recommend.
And did not go out of his or her way to make the customer happy.
Correct.
So I think that thank you for that question, that trigger. I believe that's great fodder for an entirely separate webinar on how do you manage your reputation online for people that are doing business. Okay, well, we certainly want to thank all of you. Do you want to do the final thanks, Christina, or?
So the next webinar that we have with the Better Business Bureau and Lilia is identity theft prevention. That's coming up on July 28th. So I do want to thank Lilia and Devry, Suresh, everybody on the panel. Tom, thank you so much. And I will send out the link to the recording, the PowerPoint presentation. Lilia, if you want to send me over those tips that you mentioned, I can include that in my follow-up email. That way everybody gets it all in one.
Perfect.
So thank you, everyone. Lilia, any last words?
You know what? I think just the last slide or slide before that had my email. If anyone has any questions, whether about this presentation, BBB services, your accredited business, non-accredited, shoot me an email and I will get back to you. I'm not sure. I might just put that in the chat right here because I can't find that slide. So I'm putting it in a chat real quick.
Thank you.
And then you guys have point of contact with me.
And for those of you that are watching the recording, I will be sure to include it in the email as well. Awesome. Thank you, Lilia.
Thank you for that, Lilia.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for attending today. We'll see you at the next webinar. Tomorrow we have a webinar with Google, Reach Customers Online with Google, and I'll send you the registration link for that in my email as well. So SCORE volunteers, please stay on. Let's have a briefing. Thank you everyone for attending.